Well, most of us remember Wally Lewis as an Australian rugby league legend, and he certainly is. The infamous 79 prank phone call to Wayne Bennett, a stellar player for the Bronx, and a clean sweep of the Origin series under his belt. But we never saw or knew about the internal battle of hiding an illness until 2009, when Wally had an epileptic seizure live on air. My Life, Wally Lewis. It's a tell-all autobiography revealing the details behind his secret diagnosis and football career. Here to tell us more is the man himself. Great to see you, Wally Lewis. One of the highlights of my broadcasting career, having you on my channel, on my show. Hey, listen, take us through that epilepsy fit and what actually happened straight after.
Well, mate, pretty much I'd been dealing with epilepsy for many years. I was a little bit of a coward. I chose not to reveal that I, in fact, was battling epilepsy. I was hiding it at every opportunity, but I pretty much knew that it was just a matter of time until one day I'd have a seizure, and it would be open to public conversation from that point forward. I was just about to present the news, read my first script, couldn't get it. I felt this wave go through me, and the director of controls at 9 simply got me off screen, and I think they said that I had the flu, was looking pretty ordinary. I went back a week later and had a seizure on air. It was pretty much public knowledge from that moment forward, and I knew that I had to reveal what I was dealing with. And to be honest, Pete, I think I've got to say that it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. It made me wake up to myself, and it also gave me the opportunity to be able to converse with plenty of other people in our great country that are dealing with epilepsy and are looking for some sort of advice on what they could do, who to turn to and where to go.
And I know you do plenty of that, Wally. I know behind the scenes you do a lot of that charity work and you go and see people and visit them. Your relationship with Wayne Bennett has been well chronicled, sort of a love-hate relationship in many respects. I mean, he controversially dumped you from the Broncos. You talk about that in the book. How is your relationship with Wayne right now?
Look, I think we get on pretty well. I don't think we're ever going to be the best of friends. We had a wonderful working relationship while we were in the Queensland State of Origin team. When Wayne came to see me the first time when I was captain and he was coach, he said, let's be honest, he said, you've never been that big on me and I've never been your biggest fan, so let's try and work things out. We spoke about a few key things. He told me exactly what he had in mind as coach and the pattern of play he expected to ask the Queensland team to present in order to try and achieve success in Origin football. He is the ultimate professional, I give him that. His thought process is a little bit different to plenty of other coaches, but I think that's a great thing. If we're all the same, there wouldn't be too much that'd be hard to read in a footballer's mind or a coach's mind. He certainly has gone on to achieve enormous success with the Brisbane Broncos, St George, Illawarra as well, and you've just seen what he's been able to present for the Queensland State of Origin team when he was basically handed aside that everybody in Australian Rugby League football said that they had no chance of beating New South Wales. Bennett in charge. They won the series 2-1 and it was an outstanding series performance from the coach.
Wally, I want to talk about that Queensland spirit. It's often spoken about. Many in New South Wales say it's a myth. But, you know, you talk to Paul Vaughton, you talk to Sam Bacco, you talk to anyone who's put that Guernsey on, Chris Close, Billy Moore, and they say that players grow 10 feet tall. Is that right?
That's exactly right, mate. They say they're 10 foot tall and bulletproof. What we do when we go out onto the field, we take plenty of pride out there. And when I was captain of the side, I used to turn around to the players just before we ran out at the door to step onto the field and just say, guys, when we go out here, be proud of the people we represent. They're going to give us enormous support. They don't turn on us when we lose a game. They simply think, oh, well, it was bad luck. We were beaten by a better team on the night. Just go out there and present everything about Queensland that's in your mind, and it really was a fantastic opportunity. I often tell the story and mention it in the book about what it was like with Ron McAuliffe in charge. He was a former federal senator that left no stone unturned in his efforts to get Queensland into the winners list. And I can remember McAuliffe being quizzed after we won the State of Origin series, and I'm pretty sure it was in 1984. It was our 5th year in a row that we'd achieved success, and I was getting quizzed by the media about who was the person that's most responsible for Queensland's success. and I was having a little bit of a thought process. McAuliffe jumped straight through and said, I know the answer to that one. It's the Lord. It's Jesus Christ. And you could hear all of the journalists, particularly south of the border, starting to roll their eyes and say, oh, the Senator's been on the port again. Here, have a listen to this. Now Jesus Christ is playing fullback for Queensland. And he just stopped in his tracks and he said, I didn't say that, smart Alec. What I did was say that the Lord has been very good to Queensland. You see, we've got a team here that's Colin Scott, Kerry Bowstead, Gene Miles, Mel Meninga, Chris Close, Wally Lewis, Mark Murray, Paul Vaughton, Wally Fullerton-Smith, Brian Niebling, Greg Dowling, Greg Canescu and Dave Brown. All of those blokes were born within 18 months, 2 weeks and 2 days of each other. All of those blokes, by the time that they left primary school, had played against or alongside each other at least 2 or 3 times. All of those blokes, by the time that they played senior grade or got to play their senior grade games, had played against or alongside each other at least 20 or 30 times. And by the time that they played this State of Origin game tonight, that's gone up to around 50 or 60 times. So I think the big bloke upstairs has been pretty good to us. Wouldn't you say that, smart Alec?
Yeah.
And of course all the journos rushed to get it out first and raced out the door, and I looked at McAuliffe and I said, that's remarkable, Ron. I hadn't even thought about that, but you're right. All of those guys that are born in 59, there's a couple that were born in 1960, about 5 or 6 of them. McAuliffe looked at me and he said, I've got no idea whether it's right or wrong, but I got rid of the journalists pretty quick, didn't we? We don't have to ask, we don't have to answer any tough questions anymore. The former federal senator, his skills came out that night.
Indeed. All right. Before we go, mate, I want to ask you a couple of questions that I've always wanted to ask you. Best player you ever played with or against?
Best player I've ever played with or against, certainly against, was Brett Kenny. Daylight second, and I don't mean to be disrespectful of any of the other 5'8", but Brett Kenny was brilliant. He forced me to lose my position in the Australian side. He was a wonderful player. The best footballer I think that I've ever seen was Mark Ella. I had the thrill of playing with Mark in the Australian Schoolboys Rugby Union Tour when it was Mark Glenn and Gary Ella that was playing there. We went overseas to Japan, France, England, Ireland, Wales, Scotland and Holland. We played around 20 games. We won every one of them, and I had the thrill of playing outside Mark, who was the most gifted footballer I think I've ever seen. He had skills that very few people are blessed with, and he's twice as good a bloke as he is a football player. So I think that's an indication of just how special he was.
And toughest, Wally?
Toughest, boy, I've got to say that there's a number of those players. Beetson was one of those players. Certainly there's a number of other players that come to mind. And when I answer this question, there's probably a whole pile of guys that are a little bit bemused by the answer. I put it down to Alan Langer. I've seen him cop some horrendous hits over the years. He's the smallest bloke on the field, yet he gets up and kept going on time after time after time. And then there's another player that I had the thrill of playing outside of in the early State of Origin years. It was Mark Murray. He was a halfback. He didn't get a lot of credit in the game, but he was certainly one of those players. He could get hit with a 10-foot pole and he'd wait till full time until he'd show any sort of painting. He was a wonderful player that provided plenty of good look for me, made me get even bigger raps than I was due for on that night.
Yeah, I asked Gordy Tallis that once, and he actually said Jeff Tuvey, who of course was about the same size as Alfie. Before we go, Wally, best coach you ever saw?
Mate, Bennett obviously is the coach that's got grand final wins to his name. Certainly that cannot be argued with. But for me, working one-on-one with a coach, it had to be Arthur Beetson. No doubt just one of the greatest players to represent Australia. You know, his pride in the Indigenous community as well was quite outstanding. But I think Arthur was smart enough, while a lot of people doubted his credibility, he was smart enough to know that when he was putting a challenge in front of each and every player in the Queensland State of Origin side, he didn't make it outlandish, he didn't make it impossible. He worked very well to make it quite comfortable for each and every player in the team. Sure. And Queensland, for a bunch of blokes that weren't regarded as anywhere near as good as their New South Wales opponents, he did a pretty good job, and we chalked up quite an impressive record.
Well, there it is, My Life, Wally Lewis. It's a tell-all autobiography, and it's a great read. Wally Lewis, great to see you tonight. Thanks for joining us, King.
My pleasure indeed. Thank you very much.